Okay, so we've got those parts cleaned up. As I said, we've opened up these holes here. So what we've got is these two little parts to go on. So obviously you've got the square one's going to be pretty straightforward. So I've got here some very nice thick gooey super glue, which is probably just a little bit too thick these days, but it stops it going everywhere. So we're just going to pat a bit of that just around the outside, just down in here. Okay, so we'll just clean up the middle, just like that. Okay, this nice piece of photo etch will sit right on the top. Okay, so when we look through from the inside, we've got the photo etch showing through there, and obviously that's going to be some type of boarding step, so just making sure we haven't got any glue poking through on the other side. So what we do, we just grab a bit more sticky. To be honest, it's a little bit too thick now, but the nice thing is when it's thick it doesn't tend to goo everywhere. So we're just going to have this now on the outside. Just smoothing that round. Okay, just round like so. Same thing again, we'll just clear the insides. Now this one here has two holes. You've got a grey area on there as well. Okay, so it sort of leans back if you like, so the holes are going to show through. This is what we have, the thick stuff. That goes through, and then obviously you can see from the inside we've got those two holes all looking nice and shiny. So we'll just put those there, we'll just give this a squirt of kicker just to set them in place. A bit of a blow. Makes them all nice and handleable. So there we go, that's those two in just like that. Now over on the cockpit side, if we bring this camera in nicely, there's one of these occasions where you have to use a ballpoint pen, as it says, because what you've actually got here, he says, just when you're trying to pick it up, we have one of these with little grey feet in there, and what that actually does, when you come along to do it, you can probably see on the close-up, or hopefully you see on the close-up, these got two little steps in them. So all you do, you have it upside down in that little grey area, grab yourself a ballpoint pen, okay, hold it down, then all you do, come with your ballpoint pen and just rock it up and down like you're colouring it in, and it will go from flat to nicely raised up, just like so. So that's quite a nice little touch, and then that's going to go on the floor of our cockpit. So this will go line up with the inside of these walls. So for this I'm just going to use a little bit of the PVA glue, or you could use gator glue, because that way we can move this around if it's necessary. So that same thing again, we just grab, and this is easy to clean up as well, because if it does go a little bit wrong, so just put one on each side, just like so. Okay, I'll just check the details of how far this one goes in. This one's going to go in just like so, so that's in. It's a little bit further than I thought. Okay, and as this dries off, what we can actually do is, let's bring some glue up here. We can come in with a wet Q-tip or cotton bud just to clean these up. So okay, that's that one in. That's that one in as well. So what you can do, just need to move these slightly. All you do, hold them with your finger, okay, wet cotton bud, okay, just give them a wipe, and it'll wipe away all the excess glue, leaving you with just what you need. So that's the little steps in there as well. Okay, then what you've actually got here is the actual area itself. Now this is the actual rudder pedals, which again are all in photo etch. So if you've got a pair of these, which are very handy, these are the actual Tamiya bending pliers. It holds things flat. So what you can do, you can almost place them in and it will grip. Okay, I'm just checking how this bends. So have a look at your instructions. It looks like it's going to bend over. So what we do, we just hold it there. Bend that one over, part of the instructions. Okay. And then these are going to bend over and forward. Something like that. This is a little bit fiddly. Okay, and then these foot pedals are going to bend up. So it's one of those ones, I know it's very hard for the camera to get in here to see. It's even fiddly stuff, old photo etch, that's the trouble. Okay, so that's those on. So we can bend those up, that's our foot pedals in place, and obviously textured side will be showing front. Okay, then all we want to do now is wrap around the actual the harnesses, the actual bootstraps themselves. So again, if you grab a cocktail stick, okay, you should be able to wrap it around the cocktail stick, which will give you a nice cupped shape rather than flat if you had bent it yourself. So we can place that on, I'll place them on. So we can just get half of it in. Okay, once we're in, we can just nudge them round. So we're just trying to keep it all square, everything else, and there we go, that's our little rudder pedal set. So this is why it's quite handy using PVA glue rather than super glue, because you can move these as is required around. So we're just going to put a nice dollop of glue in there. Then we just grab some tweezers because it'll be easier to place. Okay, and then what we're going to do, we're going to sit these in just here. And there we go, hopefully the close-up can see they're in. Okay, so that's that set in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry off just for a moment. We've got another one here which is going to fit around the control column, which is pretty straightforward. You just bend it in half and slip that on. So we can get that one into place. Let those bits dry off, because I don't like pulling them around too much when they're wet, because you end up making them slip and everything else. Then as soon as we've got those in place, we can have a test fit of the cockpit to see how it lines up. Okay, so we're doing some test fitting. These parts now are all dry in here. And then obviously what tends to happen is you've got the panels go on the back here. Now the arch of how this panel rear bulkhead goes back is a little bit iffy, how it actually goes. And so's the liner. When you take out the liner for some of the grooves on the floor to actually how these panels go on, these side panels, they don't add up either. So it's all a little bit iffy, shall we say, on how it actually goes. When you do a little bit of test fitting of how the cockpit tub sits in here, it seems to go in there well, but because there's no locating areas anywhere on this kit at all for doing any of this, it tends to be, you know, roughly work out where it all goes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually glue these side instrument panels in place, and then I think it would be easier to line everything up. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a drop of glue down in here, quite a bit of glue like that. Okay, then we can position it exactly how we want it to line up on this inside bulkhead. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lean it up to the rear a little bit and place it in. So we are something like that. Okay, there's a small slit still available at the front. Now hopefully that'll be enough room to fit what we might need in there. So what we're going to do, plenty of glue underneath this. Okay, and we're going to let that one sit on. We're going to do the same on the other side as well. And then what we'll do is we'll paint these up a as a separate item. Okay, so we're going to sit this one in as well. As I say, finding out exactly how all of these go is a little bit odd. Okay, but what we have got is a photo etch part that's going to go over the top of this side walling, which will detail that all up. So I'm not that worried about how all this is going to fit and go, because I've got a fair idea of how it's supposed to be. So we're just going to flood the underside so it's got something to glue to. Okay, and what we can do now is get this a little bit cleaned up, get us some of this mess out of the way, and what we can actually do is spray up obviously in here, but we can do the seat and the bits and pieces at the same time because they're the same colour. Now the seats themselves and the parts are all in here. So here we've got the two-piece affair. We've got the back headrest, which we can spray in one. So a nice little technique you can do here, if you take your pin vise, okay, now you can either clamp onto this or do what I'm going to do here. So we drill a small hole in, and then we just come along, a bit super glue this, and there we go. We can hold it on a cocktail stick like this. We can stab it into a bit of foam or something in a moment to use as a holder. So if we just grab the seat, as I said, you could probably pop this off the bottom, and that's what I'm going to do now. So very carefully, using our little razor saw here, we're going to just slice this off the bottom, and then we'll clean it up afterwards. So we just want to make sure we're all clear off each side. All off like that. Okay, we just need our slightly bigger one because our little one won't go through all the way. So we'll just cut this off the little moulding block. Keep your moulded blocks, they do come in handy at a later date, so I tend to keep all of those. Okay, so we've got this little one at the back, so you can either do it like this, just normally I would say just sand it down, but it seems we've got the saw here. Chop down into this. Okay, then what you can do, grab yourself quite a coarse file, like this. Okay, and just clean up this bottom just to flatten it all out. Just mind how you handle it, that you don't knock off any of the moulded parts. Okay, then what we're going to do, same thing again, we're just going to drill it up so the hole comes up the spine of the seat, if you like. Okay. So that way, if you did it through the seat, you might end up coming through the bottom of the seat. So there we go. That one's in like that. It's got the head box which we can trim off afterwards. So what we can do, we can clean up these bits here, just get all the dust and everything off that we've done, and when we come to spray, we can spray at the same time all of these parts together. So what we're going to do now, clear all this up, get rid of some of these tools and everything else, clear away a little bit, and we can get on some paintwork. Okay, so what we've got now, cleaned up obviously these bits, got the airbrush. So for this particular one, what we're going to be using is RLM 76, which is the Luftwaffe light blue, which is pretty much a good sort of match for sort of interior colours, especially by the time we give it a bit of a wash to dark, which will darken it a little bit, and then with some sort of dry brushing and things like that to really bring them to life. So basically in this case I'm going to use the Guns ones, which are the watercolour based ones, which is H417. So a good old shake, because it's a new one to be honest. So we're just going to put it neat into the old colour cup. Okay, so first of all we'll start with the check our flow, and we're just going to spray the inside of this panel area, just like so, just in there to get it all in there. Okay, same with the other side. Right, and then what we're going to do is obviously the tub as well. So we're just coming in from all the angles There we go. Don't worry about the bulkheads too much, because obviously you're going to come along afterwards and we'll take care of those. So that's the basics of those done. We don't have to worry about the instrument panel because obviously that's already been pre-painted and things like that. But if you were to do it, you could actually do it right now. So we're going to let those just dry just for a few minutes, and then what we can do, we can go around and pick out some of the black areas and some of the fine details. Then we can give it a wash and really bring it to life, and we can really start to move on and get this cockpit all buttoned up. Okay, so these are dried, and as you can probably see on the close-up as well, we've done a little bit of the black work just to highlight those areas, and there's only a couple of little bits on there to do, and we've done the cockpit walls as well just on that one. So what we want to do now is just sort of highlight and give these a bit of a sense of depth. So what we're going to do is just do a very, very light dry brushing job over everything. So for these, I've got these little flat brushes which are quite handy for this type of job because they're nice and flat, quite short bristles as well. Also, what I like to do is to use the Citadel paints for things like this. I know it's a different type of paint, and obviously equally well will almost work as well, would be sort of the Tamiya colours or the Gunzo ones, things like that. But these, I just quite like them because they're just such a nice consistency. They're quite thick, they cover very, very well. So what we do, we've got it down here, so what we're going to do is knock off 98% of all the paint on our brush. Okay, and using kitchen towel is quite good because it's got a raised textured surface. It'll take most of it off. Now, because it's silver, it's very, very strong comes through, so very, very lightly we're just going to brush right the way over. Absolutely everything. Now, we're doing everywhere with this, and we're not just doing the instruments and things. We're going to be going down, we're going to be doing the floor to give it a scab. Now, be careful of the old photo etch, you don't want to scrape that off. Okay, now we're going to do these side walls as well, because we're just trying to give this the sense that the switches are all obviously there, and obviously with the black underside as well, it livens out. And as you wear off more of your paint, you can push a little bit harder. Okay, let's bring some of this to life. Okay, just like that. Now you may notice we haven't added any colour as such to these things. And we can go around and pick out all the colours last of all, because they're going to be switches. So that's those bits done. Now what I want to do really to give it its depth is give it some shadowing. Now you could use just a normal pin wash where you just get some paint, thin it down and put it on. But what I do like to do is literally put it through the airbrush and just blow it out. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just clean out the airbrush here. Okay, so what we do, we're just going to grab quite a bit of thinners. Okay, all goes in there first. Now it doesn't matter if you've got dregs of other colours around. Then we take a little bit of black. In my case, this is a little bit of wheel black. Okay, just pop a little bit on your brush. Okay, and give it a good old mix around. And what we're looking for is dirty thinners in as such. I don't see how well you can see that in the colour cup, but it has the appearance of thinners. As I say, it's just very, very wet, very, very watery. So we just blow some of this through. Then all we're going to do, quick passes, right the way over, okay, and let it dry. Okay, now remember, don't handle these after you've put them in, because the thinners that we've just sprayed over it is obviously going to melt some of that paintwork, so it will be soft. It's not going to melt and dissolve it, but it will be soft. So if you come along and stick your finger in it, it will be a right mess, because you'll just leave a very nice fingerprint. Now the reason for airbrushing it on, it just gives it a very nice smooth finish. You might be able to see there on the close-up. It just works very, very nicely. It gives it a nice shadow, a nice little bit of depth, and hopefully you can see, you know, what's on the camera is obviously trying to get them into a bit of trouble here, but it gives it just a nice shadowing and everything else, just a nice bit of depth to it and everything else. So we've cleaned all those up. Next up is the instrument panel. Now the instrument panel themselves, we just carefully move these out of the way a moment, pop a few lids on. Okay, the instrument panel itself is made up of two parts, okay, and we are going to have to do some shopping around with this one. So what we've got here is the colour photo etch fret. Okay, now we've got various handles and things that have got to go inside the cockpit, but we won't put them on until it is literally almost done. Now keep this clear gun sight to one side because that's quite important, because it does look very nice with a nice thin one. So that's what that little guy is there, like a piece of film. So what we're going to do with this, we're just going to snip this one out. Tips of the scissors, just to clip it off. Okay, and then the actual instrument panel itself. Now the instrument panel itself's got a couple of folds on it that we need to do. And obviously on these photo etch sets, whilst you're looking around it, you probably notice that we've got various things on here. We've got seats, harnesses, and buckles and things like that, and the ejection handles. Okay, the actual parts for this, it's funny, they're like a shroud system, these ones on the top, so they're actually going to bend inward. So if you take your bending pliers, okay, then what you can do, you can literally just sit them on the side, and we're just going to bend this guy up and that guy up. Okay, then hopefully these will fit in between, and then this bends down. So if you know what I mean, we're making a shroud so it hides the actual, it gives a cover to the panel. Okay, same with the other side. So we're just going to bend that one up, this one over. Okay, and then together we should go down. Bit of a bad bend on that one, if I'm honest. Could have done that one slightly better. So what we do, we just clamp the outside and try and re-bend that one down again, so we get a more of a positive angle to it. Okay, those are on. Then all we're going to do, the fun part. Okay, so we're just going to hold this guy here. Put ourselves a cocktail stick here. A little bit of the clear PVA glue. Don't worry about this. You can just smear it everywhere, because we'll clean this up all afterwards. And obviously it'll dry totally clear anyway. And then all we're going to do is just sandwich the two so the dials all show through, and it's a positive lineup. By a positive lineup I mean the top and bottoms are the same size. Okay, so you can pop this one down and just work it into position exactly how you want it. Okay, you should be able to pick it up as one. Hopefully you can see there on the close-up. We bring that in, the camera can lock in. Having trouble there. There we go. There it is. Very, very nice display. A far improvement over the kit part, which is literally just a piece of clear. So there we go. That's that one done just like that. And then this is going to fit in a moment to the inside of the cockpit, but we'll put that in once we're all dry and we're all happy with that. But there we go, all nicely done. So we're just going to leave that to one side. We're going to let all those bits dry off for the moment, and then we can bring these fuselage halves together. At the same time, what we've also done, or whilst you're waiting for those to dry, you can move on and do this bit. And all we've done, we've put in the actual tubes that obviously we had for the intakes. They're sat in there now, all looking very, very nice. Okay, they're in, and we've put the wheel wells bottoms in. Now what we're going to have to do is tidy these up, and that's what I'm saying about if you do it now, these can be going off and drying as we're doing these bits, and then we can sort of move on, because we've done the wings already, because we're going to have to take care of this seam running over the top, the wing seams, and as this bolts to the side. So that's why I'm saying, really, if you want to do it now, get it out of the way now is the time to do it. Okay, so that's those bits dried. Now obviously you've said before you can pick out any individual colours you want to and things like that. I'm going to leave mine quite plain, because obviously we're going to have it opened up and everything else like that, but there's no real colours when you look at them. You obviously got blacks and things in there, but for the insides of the cockpits there's not a great deal going on. Now the trouble is, a little design fault here. When you come along, obviously we put these side walls to the correct height, okay, but when you come in with the cockpit, this one here fits lovely. On the other side it's way too deep. Okay, so what I actually did, I've taken off 1mm in height, cut it off the bottom and reset it, and I've taken 1mm off of the top of this one as well. So when they come in now, they're about the right height. Now the trouble is, on this side of the wall, it's around about the right height before. So this is a little bit short, coming up short, but the actual main one as well fits extremely well. So what we're going to do is, we've got a plate, which is on this side. sit this one in, which is going to go in here, and it goes across this back wall at the back here. Okay, going to go across here, so it's going to hide it. It's a photo etch plate, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Something we can take care of. Wheel well has been set in. I've lined it up as par. You can see the shadow, the sort of panel line running along the bottom. I've married it up to that in there. There's no real place to put it. Again, there's no locations, so I've done it to how the panel line runs along underneath it as well, which basically is start and finish, which seems to be about right for it. So then what we're going to do, we're going to sit it in here like this. Okay, we're going to get some extra thin and let the capillary action do its work and start flowing that all around in there. Okay, there's it set in there. We can just sort of butt it up and get it in there, and it's basically a good fit in that side. I said when you come along and put the halves together, there is a little bit of an issue with it fitting and getting in there. But I said if you put in one side, get in the problem side first, let the glue bite in there, okay, and then we're going to get these two buttoned up together, and we're going to run extra thin all the way around it, and then we're going to let that dry off and go hard, and then what we can do, we can start getting the other bits in there. So that's that bit on. We're quite happy with how all that is going to sit in there. As I said, it's not the best positioning as in the cockpit because it's pretty vague how it goes, but on these sides here we're going to have some photo etch parts which are going to give it a good bit of depth. As I say, we've got the rear bulkhead to go on, which is photo etch as well, so really livening it up. We've got plenty of photo etch to go up here above the instrument panel over the coaming, so that's going to look really, really nice when it's all done. So we'll get this one all glued together.